Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. It looks like the revolution is alive and well. This is my wife and my granddaughter, Laura. This is Carol. They told me there would be more than 3 dozen spammers here, and it looks like there are. Oh, no, thank you very much, and I thank you for all the effort. There they are. They're the same. You know, there's one big difference with this campaign. I'm not the campaign. You're the campaign. Now, and what we're doing is so important, you know, and they keep putting me down at times. So where are you going? How you can do this? You can't win. But, you know, how many have been on that stage? There have been 11. How many are there now? 5! So I think that the old rule is the one who stands last, the last standing wins. That's what we're doing now. The one thing for sure is the message is going to be heard. It's going to stand because that's what America is all about. Freedom and prosperity, a sensible foreign policy, obey the law, obey the Constitution. But there's a bigger need now than ever before. There's been attempts to revive the traditions of America many, many times over the last several decades. And we haven't done well. I've been trying for 30 years, but conditions are different. They're quite a bit different now. There is an acknowledgement now that big government centralized in Washington, D.C. does not work. And tonight I got to barely mention it, but I believe it's a very, very accurate assessment that there's something very big going on financially. Financially, we're in big trouble. There's something happened to this dollar. There is going to be a revamping, and we have the opportunity to present our case because we have the answers. And the answers are found very simply in our traditions. The founders understood this. They understood about runaway inflation. They made sure in the Constitution, at least, that we were never supposed to print money again. We were supposed to only use gold and silver as legal tender. But look at what's happening. You know, since 1971, the last time we had any linkage of our dollar to gold, you know how many new dollars they've created? 13 trillion. And then they wonder why the value of the dollar is going down. You know, it just doesn't make any sense that they're going to pursue it. This tinkering around that says $150 billion is going to cure this whole thing. You know, we sent out an economic package today. Matter of fact, it was just a summary of what I've been saying and the bills I've introduced. I mean, it is radical tax reduction. That's what we need. No income tax. No inheritance tax, no tax on interest earned or dividends. Let the people have their money. We need to regulate this economy a lot less. We don't need the federal government involved doing all these things. The fact is, markets work. Markets work. As soon as the government gets involved, they distort the markets, they create the inflationary booms and then the inevitable recession, and that's what we're in the midst of. There have been absolutely accurate predictions made over the last decade or two warning about the bubble. First the NASDAQ bubble, and then the housing bubble. So it should surprise no one about what's going on today because these are predictable events if you just study sound Austrian free market economics. But tonight I tried to make a point, and I got a chance to make a bit of the point, but it's so necessary. You know, when Tim, but he thinks conventionally. And he says, okay, the war used to be the issue. The war's not the issue anymore. Now it's the economy. Like it's two different things. you know, there's nothing different. Now, so most of you don't remember, but in the 60s they said that we could have guns and butter. And at that time, the war was going on in Vietnam, and they expanded the welfare state, and we suffered in the 70s. We had stagflation, interest rates to 21%, inflation rates at 15%, 12% unemployment rates. And what did we do? More of the same thing. We've been fighting wars, increasing the welfare state, and running up these deficits. But there's a big difference now. All our good jobs are overseas. We're not a creditor nation. We're a debtor nation right now. And our dollars on the ropes. I truly believe that it is the end of an era. It's the end. I thought the end of the Bretton Woods came in 1971, or at least some changes had to be made. But it was just a temporary change, and it was revived. But that era of the pseudo-gold standards started after World War II is now coming to an end. They don't know about it yet. It has to be addressed, and it can only be done by reining in the government. And the very first place that we rein in the government is this monstrosity that we're running overseas. We need to get all our troops home and save that money. And I've said this many times during the campaign. You know, they said, they got him now, because he said one time he wanted to get rid of Social Security. Now what's he going to say? I say, get the young people out of Social Security and let's work our way out of this thing. You don't need to be in it. But it is true, many have become dependent, and I'm sympathetic with that because promises were made. They paid into it, although the money was squandered and the money was spent on wars and all these other things. Because we're wealthy enough and because they're so dependent, there's no reason why we can't take those individuals, take care of them until there is a transition. But there's no reason why we can't believe in freedom again, where you assume some responsibility for yourself, and then that way you get to keep all your money when you earn it. But the ultimate reform in this country will be a changed foreign policy where we defend this country, but we don't police the world. It means that we will have a sound currency once again, as was mandated by the Constitution, and that means no Federal Reserve System either. And although I have a lot of these suggestions on where we can cut taxes, and I always will vote to cut taxes and work to cut taxes, ultimately, we just have to repeal the 16th Amendment and make sure we never have the income tax again.